So, herein, work in Krishna consciousness or Karma Yoga. So, before that, let us pay obeisance to Sri Radha Govinda. Manglacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Nananjanasalakaya Chakshurmitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Abhishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dino Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatra Abhyascha Kripa Sindhu Abhevacha Patitam Nam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pascha Deshatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So what we were doing yesterday, we were looking at Arjuna's confusion because he wants to know whether to renounce or act on karma, which path to take. So then we looked at the reasons from 3.13 to 3.9 versus how Krishna is telling him that Jnana Yoga is difficult, Nishkama Karma work is better. Okay. And then he is going to talk about from how to go from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. So this is the yoga ladder which is explaining in this particular chapter. Okay. So this is how the flow chart goes. So what was it? The recap. What was his confusion? Because Arjuna was thinking that Krishna is talking in contradictory terms. He says in one time, don't take, why are you asking me to do this ghore activities, this thing? Why you want me to do that? Might as well take up sannyas and go buddhi yoga, be intelligent, because I'm the soul and not the body. Why I should do? I don't have any material desires. So this is what was the Arjuna's confusion. He's telling him, please tell me one thing. So we just looked at that. What was his duty? Because Krishna is again going to stress upon these prescribed duties. So we looked at that. That is because as we have our identity, whether we are a mother or a father or a teacher, whatever role we take, we have that particular duty to take part. So that is the body, like Arjuna has the body of a Kshatriya, so he has the Kshatriya duty to do it. So there is a duty because of the material body, but there is a duty to the soul also. And the soul's duty won't change with the body, but the body can take different from birth after birth. Today it could be a Kshatriya body, it could be something else, a Brahmana, or it could be anything, right? And also for us, even during the day, we take different roles. So the body can take different identities and the roles will change, the duties will change. But the soul is eternal, so it has got its own dharma. So that we have to look at it. So that's what the Buddhi Yoga, Bhakti Yoga is towards the soul, right? Then, what was this confusion actually, right? So if you do any activity, any action, any karma, you'll have a reaction. Whether it's a papa or a punya, you have a reaction with that. It will have some either credit or discredit to that. So Arjuna was thinking, if I do any action, there's a reaction. So why do at all any action? I might as well take sannyas, then there won't be any reaction. So this is the understanding which the Arjuna got from the discussions he had in the chapter, right? That is, if you do karma, you will have some bondage. But if you take up sannyas, there'll be liberation. This is what he was thinking. So he was asking the Lord, you tell me one thing clearly what I have to do. So actually, the Lord just gives all the explanation and the principles. It is up to us to decide. So what does the Lord say? He says, being not taking up your prescribed duty or not doing the duty itself, it gives you reaction. That is, inaction also gives you reaction. There is a thing for that. That because you are falsely renouncing it, you are not prepared, you are not at mature. There is a false renunciation, so there is, you surely will have some reaction. Like people now, when they say, I'm taking to spiritual path, and they will take up sannyas, and outwardly they would have had all the garb of a sannyasi and everything, but internally he might have not purified. He still has those vasanas, he still has those desires, that material desires, and that senses are still attracted to that. So that is false renunciation. So if that is what physically you are being inactive, but mentally and internally you are still uh, looking into those attractions. So that is also gives you reactions, not good. So what the Lord says finally, he says you do work, do your karma, and don't look at the results. You give the results for, you don't work for the results. And you have to do it as a duty, as a sacrifice for it. And used for whom you have to work for the Lord Vishnu, because he is the Yagneshwara. So this is what we saw by the verse 9. He says this is, and why he says why we have to work? Because soul is always active, the mind is active, so it requires engagement. So if you don't give some engagement, then it becomes a workshop for the devil. So you will need to do work and do it in such a way that you won't get any reaction. So this is how the Lord was telling. See, immediately, as soon as one thing you have to realize in every chapter, as Arjuna asks questions, there is a doubt. Immediately, the Lord will give him the answer and say, you have to do this and not that. And then further, he will expand why we should not do that and why we have to do it. So the explanations comes after that, right? So performing prescribed duties is better than not working, because it is performing duty will gradually purify your heart, because there are so many material propensities which you have, which you need to come out of that. And that comes only when you start doing. Otherwise, you will fall down before your purification of the heart. So that's the reason Krishna says there are two kinds of people when they embark on this journey. There will be one who likes to do work, keeps on doing, he likes to keep himself active and do this seva, do that. And that's what we see even the devotees in ISKCON. They will be taking up more and more sevas and things, and they might not have time for reading scriptures. But there will be another kind of people who want to study scriptures and things and not inclined towards this seva, running around that. So here he says, first you do that. Gradually you purify your heart. And then once it gets purified, what happens? You will slowly get the understanding, and slowly you will start looking at the scriptures and to reading. So you need both. You need philosophy and you need the save also. So work should not be given up capriciously without purification of the materialistic propensities. And what happens? And one step further he goes, he says you do it as a sacrifice to Vishnu, because then it won't cause bondage. It will be liberating. Gradually elevate and develop loving service to the Lord. And you'll be going back. If you don't do that, what happens? You will be caught in the cycle of birth and death. Whether you do punya or you do good action or bad action, you still be caught in that cycle. So this is what we learned in the. So this is all about karma. What happens to the prescribed duties, how we have to do it. And this. Then now, when he says you have to do as a sacrifice to Vishnu, right? So he doesn't tell here you do the sacrifice to me, because only when he talks about bhakti yoga, that time he says, whatever you do whatever you eat, whatever you do it for me, Krishna. But here, since he's talking about karma yoga, and Lord Vishnu is the maintainer of this material world, so here in this context is saying you do it as a sacrifice of to Vishnu. And now the coming verses is going to expand on that. This is what we talk about as karma kanda to karma yoga. So if a person is too attached to material life and he cannot perform nishkama karma yoga, then what he has to do? Krishna describes the yoga ladder from lowest, how you can progressively, gradually you can climb up, move higher and higher in the realization from karma kanda to karma yoga. Okay. And one thing we have to notice when you read the purpose in all this chapter, you see it ends up with glorifying the supremacy of the Lord and the need for Sankirtana. It always talks about Krishna consciousness, right? Actually, spirituality is a huge responsibility. It's not, you do progress internally, but it is a huge thing. You have to work for it. It's not just, it just comes to you, get jnana like that at the stretch. No, you have to persevere and try to see how to go about it. Okay. So when we said yoga ladder, I said, no, I even showed it to you yesterday also. This a person who doesn't look at anything is only bothered about sense gratification. He'll eat whatever he wants and he'll sleep and he'll do whatever activities. That is only bothered about those 4 activities which animals do. Eat, sleep, and see for its survival, defense thing, and then mating. This is all he will do. But slowly when he realizes and he wants to come out of it, then he will like to do it in a regulated manner. That's what he will look. Let me do it in a proper fashion. Why I have to be like this, whims and fancies. So that is when he gets tired of this and he slowly goes up into that. When he does this sense gratification, regulated manner. That means he is looking into the Vedas, which we are going to see now, which Krishna is going to explain more. And then as he gets satisfied and he got a lot of, he's comfortable in his material world, has got wealth, he's got a good wife, and he's got children, and everything is settled. And then still that satisfaction may not be contentment. No, he'll still be thinking there must be something more. Then slowly, that's when he will start looking into the scriptures thing and then start giving. He might be giving charity to others, but slowly he'll become a devotee with selfish deed. With no, I mean, he'll partly give to the Lord, partly give as a sacrifice. And then finally, when he has no desire, this is it. So it's all the path is going towards the Lord, but a different understanding of self-realization. That's what we say when we look at this flowchart, right? So we look at this Karma Kanda now. Krishna says in the verse 10, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Vishnu. That is the thing. And blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yajna, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. Ishta kama dukha. So he says, I have created this world because the souls were had a lot of desires to fulfill independent of Krishna. They don't want it. They want to enjoy themselves. They didn't want to be in the spiritual. So when they had that kind of desires and propensities, so the Lord said, I have created this material world for you. So you go ahead and be there. And I have given you the manual also. That is the Vedas. How to, otherwise, why should it? Once you create something, once a government is formed, the government will form some regulations and rules, for the citizens to follow. Otherwise, it will be chaotic. Even take a traffic. It says you go only in this direction. When the red signal comes, you stop. When the green signal, you go. If there was no signal, traffic signals, then people will be just going haywire, right? Same way, the Lord also, which has created this universe, he has also given the certain laws and things which is given in the Vedas. He has given it through Brahma and it has come down by the Acharyas, which says how to live here in this happily and also fulfill all your desires. Okay. And then he says, I have given generations, what even men and demigods, along with sacrifices to Krishna. So, Ishta Kama Duk. So, this is whatever you want to think it will desire. So he has given us creation, he has given nothing Vedas, and he has also sent the humans and all the living entities and whichever form they have, and the demigods. And who are they? They have to live, humans have to live in coordination with the demigods in a cooperative manner. And these demigods mean they are the devatas. And they are the ones, because once you create a system, you have to appoint people there to do the administration, to take care of the things are going well. Like Surya Dev, you have Indra Dev, you have so many devas, we know about it. But this is why he has made demigods to take care. And humans have to work with them because we are getting everything, all the necessities for life through demigods, because they are the ones who are operating this universe, right? So we have to work cooperatively with them and to enjoy. Then you will get Ishtakama Dukha, right? This is the system he has created. And why we have to give, and we have to work. And the next verse he says, the demigods being pleased by sacrifice will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. So when somebody is doing something for you, is taking care of that, then what happens? We have to be grateful to them. We have to thank them for doing it. So, and in the Vedas, there are quite a lot of things which says, if you pray for Surya Dev, you will get health. And if you pray to Goddess Saraswati, you will get intelligence. Um, to Lord Ganesha, you will get knowledge. And like that, there's so many are there. So these are different, and it's not only few. You got so many lakhs of demigods who are all taking care of this whole universe which the Lord has given. And they are all devotees. Actually, and they are to give that position. It's just a position, So people who are high pure devotees, think they are given those portfolios to handle it. Okay. And they will always be subservient to the Lord, and they will carry out the wishes of the Lord, who is the topmost, who is the one who has appointed them, and they take it. So our job is to please them by sacrifices and cooperate with them. So then only prosperity will reign. So this is known as karma kanda stage. Okay. Why? Thing is, when people have these material desires, they have to fulfill them, because otherwise it still be there inside, in the heart. It won't get satisfied, means it still be lingering in them. Even outwardly you might say no, no, and all that, but internally you will have that lingering for it, right? That hankering for that. So it says you satisfy them in a regulated manner. Another thing, what happens when you do this karma kind of activities, when you are there, it purifies. And one more thing, why the Lord realized, see, there are different people, with different understanding. So when they do this, when they learn and try to obey the Vedas, and they try to thank the demigods, they are bowing down to the authority, bowing down to highest authority. So obedience will be there, and they will purification also will take, and they'll depend on the demigods for their welfare, right? So that dependence will come. They won't get into that mentality, everything I have done, I can live independently. No, you're dependent on somebody. You're dependent, for the food grains to grow, for the rains to come, for the sun to be there, everything. So you're depending on for your survival itself. So that dependence will be there, and your obedience will be there. So that attitude will develop when you when you take care of this. So this is what the Lord says. And what happens by performance of actness, it's given in the puppet. I've taken this from the puppet. All activities are purified as is stated in the Vedas. Ahara Suddhav, Sattva Suddhav, Dhruva Smriti Lambe Sarva Grantinam Pramoksha. It's taken from the puppet only. Ahara Suddhav means once eatables become sanctified. Once you, before eating, because eating is one activity which is done by all the human beings, everybody, right? So once you, whatever you want to eat, what thing, if you offer it to the Lord and take it as prasad, it becomes sanctified. And what happens when you take such sanctified food, sattva, then your existence becomes purified. That by purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified. And what happens then? When memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation. So this is the reason. All these combined together lead to Krishna consciousness. So taking prasadam, what happens? It purifies our issues, bodily issues and things. And what will happen? We will be able to get a better understanding of this tattvas, the principles and the scriptures, what it's trying to tell. Otherwise, in the beginning, if you just try to read, it will just be like going about and you'll feel sleepy. You may not be able to keep track of it. So here, it clearly says in the Vedas that ahara shuddha, once you take, if the food gets sanctified, then it helps us in growing the path of spirituality, right? And you'll be able to progress. So this is the basic thing. In fact, in beginning, when the followers were there attending his lectures, his talks, he used to give them prasadam, right? And that, they used to just take. They didn't realize what's the importance or significance. But Prabhupada used to give them prasadam every time, every Wednesday and Sunday when you had this Sangha and people used to attend, used to give them little prasadam. I used to cook for them and give them. And that, it purifies. And that too, when you get from an acharya and the thing, it really purifies. And they will be able to slowly, by 6 months, 8 months, they were able to understand what he's trying to say, right? So this is what it says in the Vedas, right? So, but in charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods being satisfied by the performance of yajna will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to their mouths in return is certainly a thief. So Krishna is telling that you have to offer. These are the reasons, because he has given that and you have to follow the law of karma, right? This is what is. Let us see what is there in the purport. Hare Krishna. Ishtan bhogan hi veda dashyante yajna bhavita thayar dattan apradayo e bhunkte stena evasa. That is, enjoys these gifts without offering them to demigods in return is certainly a thief. Hare Krishna, anybody can offer.
Mataji, can I read?
Yes, ma'am, Prabhuji, Sandeep Prabhuji, yeah.
The demigods are authorized supplying agents on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Therefore, they must be satisfied by the performance of prescribed yajnas. In the Vedas, there are different kinds of yajnas prescribed for different kinds of demigods, but all are ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one who cannot understand what the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, the sacrifice to demigods is recommended. According to different material qualities of the persons concerned, different types of yajnas are recommended in the Vedas. Worship of different demigods is also on the same basis, namely, according to different qualities. For example, the meat eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali, the ghastly form of material nature, and before the uh, before the goddess, the sacrifice of animals is recommended. But for those who are in the mode of goodness, the transcendental worship of Vishnu is recommended. But ultimately, all yajnas are meant for gradual promotion to the transcendental position. For ordinary men, at least 5 yajnas, known as Pancha Mahayajna, are necessary.
So what we say here is that yajna is given in the Vedas, and that too depending of our mentality. We might be in the mode of goodness, or people will be in the mode of rajas or tamas. They will have different qualities, and they'll be attracted to different requirements. Their desires will be different. So here, and everything is given in the Karma Kanda section of Vedas. Okay, and actually it forms about 80% of it. Of the Vedas is all about Karma Kanda. It is addressing to different people. So, but one thing we should know is here, Prabhupada writes, the necessities of life that the human society requires are given by the demigods. They are the agents of the Lord. Nothing is manufactured. See, we don't getting grains and all that, or for your food or eatables are not made in the factories. It is grown in the field, right? And even if you take non-vegetarians, that is meat-eating people, the cows or the goats and things, fish, they also eat vegetables. They also need that, right? And so everything is given by the demigods. So we have to be grateful to them, grateful that. So that's what here Prabhupada writes in the purport. So the aim of this life is attained by performance of. So for all this is given to keep our body healthy, right? And okay, sorry, just 1 minute. Okay, this aim of life is attained by performance. If we forget the purpose of human life and simply take the supplies from agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in material existence, this is not the purpose of creation. So he says we have become thieves because we are not being grateful to them. See, that is the reason. And therefore we are punished by the loss of. Why punished by the loss of material nature? Because we are not thinking of going back to the Godhead. We are thinking only about our sense gratification and thinking this is the world, this is the reality, and we are here to enjoy and go. So what? And there's no birth after this. That's what we think. So when we forget the purpose of life, we'll take a third thing. So it's a and society of thieves can never be happy because they have no aim in life. The gross materialist thieves have no ultimate goal of life. They are simply directed to sense gratification. Nor do they have knowledge how to perform yajnas. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inaugurated the easiest performance of yajna, namely the Sankirtana yajna, which can be performed by anyone in the world who accepts the principle of Krishna consciousness. So this is the reason, because in Kali Yuga, this is the only thing which will easy and which is able to understand by the people because of the less intelligence and the less short life they have. So there's a reason. So the purpose, otherwise Krishna is clearly telling us, if you are not grateful and you don't perform, you are eating your thieves. So this is the thing. Karma Kandis are the ones who will lead a regulated life and they will be following the Vedic injunctions and they will perform yajnas and they slowly will gradually they'll rise as the purification takes place and the realization comes. Then they can slowly understand to start. Now they'll be giving it to the demigods. That means they're indirectly giving it to the Lord Vishnu. And then once they understand that it is actually to Lord Vishnu we have to give, then they will move towards the Karma Yoga stage. So this is how the progress takes place. Okay. So this is what happens, what we do if we do not perform sacrifices. Krishna is very clearly saying. The devotees of the Lord are who have realized this, they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for their personal satisfaction verily eat their saints. So here it clearly talks about it. He says if you don't even, he is only talking about eating activity, but actually it applies to all the activities, right? And eating because Krishna is talking because that is one activity which everyone does, right? And why it purifies our body is also been explained, right? So he says, if you don't, you are atheism. And then he's further explaining this cycle of, it's a famous verse, Annad bhavanti bhutani, parjanad anna sambhava, yagnad bhavati parjanyo, yagna karma sambhutava. That is, what do you mean by cycle of sacrifices? The Lord created things. He has given us the Vedas, and from Vedas we know how to live in this life. For example, if you have to grow vegetables and things or the crops, you need to cultivate the land and sow the seeds. And then you have to perform sacrifices. Why? We need the rain. Just tolling and putting the seeds is not enough. You need to have to water it and you need rain for it. And you have to ask the mercy of the demigods to give that. And then Once you get it, once the crops have come, what you have to do, we have to offer it to the resident and thank the demigods for giving that. That completes the cycle of sacrifice. And this is for any activity. We only talked about the activity of growing vegetables or growing food, but it can be activity for any activity we take. We have to, if you are doing something intellectual work, you have to thank the Lord for the intelligence, for the buddhi he has given us. And if you are successful, I think you have to give the results to the Lord. Then regulated life activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested by the Supreme Personality of God. Consequently, all pervading transcendence eternally situated. So, Yajna Pratishtha. Okay, this is what clearly is. And then, and the purport, I think we are going to look at. There are three kinds of activities. One, vikarma is you do activities which is forbidden. Okay, and it's a sinful actions. And karma is the actually, karma, no, it takes different meanings depending on the context. Here, karma, it means prescribed action which you have to do, rightful one. But if you do it as a sacrifice, then it becomes karma yoga. That means you are giving the results, you're connecting the results to the Lord and you're giving it to them, then becomes a service. Okay. एवं परिवर्तितं चक्रं नानुवर्त्यतया आघायुरिन्द्रियारमो मोगं पार्थ स जीवति. My dear Arjuna, who does not follow in human life this cycle of sacrifice thus established by Vedas certainly leads to a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. So what happens? A person, if he doesn't live for connected to the Lord, what happens? He is only living a life of sin. You might be doing charity to all human beings, but still you don't think of the Lord, then it is in vain. Because you're doing it for thing, but you're not connecting the results to the Lord. It will be a partial benefit. That's why. So he is not, I think. And then, so he talked clearly to Arjuna why we have to do this work for the Lord Vishnu. He said, no, you have to nishkama karma yoga. And then, if you don't do, you'll be a karma kanda thing there. And you have to progress. You can't just stick there. And then he said, if you don't be grateful to the demigods, to the thing, and do the regulations given in the Vedas, then you are being sinful. Now, he's telling that. So he explained that, why we have to give thing to work for the Lord. And next, now he goes to tell to Arjuna, one step behind. Okay, now you are doing Nishkama Karma Yoga. And that doesn't mean that you just stop there and you go ahead. But you, Nishkama Karma Yoga, but still you continue to do it because you have to set an example to the others. See, like he knows Arjuna is a devotee and he doesn't have material desires. He tells, no, I don't want, because it's sinful reactions, I don't want all this heavenly thing or anything. Even if you give all that, there's no enjoyment for me because he has no material desires, right? But he says, if you leave the battlefield now, what happens to the other soldiers are all there on this battlefield? They are not in the same level of realization like you. They have their thing. And for them, you are a hero. You are a role model for them. So when you are a role model like that, they will like to follow your example. If you leave the battlefield now, they will also leave it. I said, why we also have to fight? Let us also take sannyas. But they are not that purified. They are still in a immature stage. So for them, it will be disastrous. So you have to be here, do this work and show them how Nishkama Karma Yoga to do so that it will be an example for them. You become a thing. So he is taking Arjuna to one more level. So he first, see the way the Lord is explaining, you can go in a logical manner, you can understand. So in these verses, he is going to tell him, Nishkama Karma Yoga may conclude. Okay, my prescribed duties are meant to bring material reward. I don't want to have any material desire in this life, nor do I desire Swargaloka. I know I'm not this body. I want to go back to the Lord. So why should I need to perform my prescribed duties? This might be the question which any Nishkama Karma Yogi might conclude. So in the following verses, Krishna explains why one freed from material desires should nevertheless perform his duties. Why? Because he has to set a role model. And this is the answer for the destruction of family dynasty. He says, no, when if we do that, family dynasty will, the tradition will be lost. He says, no, you set up and you do that. The way you all carry out the duties, rule the kingdom like Yudhishthira, and along with him you are ruling it, then you will be setting an example, a role model for the others, how to follow. So even if the elders are no more there to guide the youngsters or the women or give protection to the women, you perform your duty and you set an example and you guide them. You be a role model. So this is the answer which is for the destruction of family dynasty, which Krishna is now explaining. So for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there's no duty because he has no material desire. So he's no have duty in the material world, but he has a duty for nothing. So that means jnanis who have renounced have any duty, because jnanis don't have material desires, they have no material duty, but still they have a duty towards the human life. So this is what is clearly said here. Then a self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he reason to any work, nor has any need to depend on any other living being. When Krishna says this, then naturally the question comes to Arjuna's mind, will there be any, are there any examples? Are there any people like that who are doing it? So in the further verses, he says, therefore, without being attached to fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. So you continue to do a Nishkama Karma Yoga, so that do it as a duty, and when you do it without attachment, you surely get liberation. Okay, you should do your duty. So throughout he's telling you, once do our duty, how we have to do it is been there. And now he's giving examples. Kings such as Janaka attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So this is what happens. Even if you take the life of Prabhupada, he could have been just been in with Vrindavan and lead a spiritual life that continues, but he didn't, because he had this order by a spiritual master to spread this Krishna consciousness. So he had to embark on his journey. So he came, and by his role model, by him, the way he was in this path, people, it was, you have to educate them by your lifestyle, by the way you are. You have to explain that. So that's how he was there to, as a role model, to educate the people in this Krishna consciousness, to perform as a prescribed duties. So here I think you can read the purport. It's very nice, elaborate. I may not stop here. And then, whatever action a great man performs, the common man will follow. And whatever standards he sets by his exemplary exams, the world pursues. Yagdad acharati shreshta tattad evattaro jana sa yat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. So let us see this purport and then close, because that's a very nice. So people in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes, right? So Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. One he teaches that way is called an acharya. So we need acharyas. We have to follow acharyas. Therefore, teacher must follow the principles of Shastra to teach the common man. He cannot manufacture rules against the principles of the revealed scripture. So whatever you say, whatever you talk, it should have a reference to the Shastras. And you can't make up your own rules, okay? So the revealed scriptures like Manu Samhita and other symbols are considered the standard books to be followed by the human society. Thus, the leader's teaching should be based on the principles of such standard Shastras. One who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. So, Even Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the steps of devotees to be on the path of spiritualization. The fathers, key teachers. See, all these, the king, executive head of a state, the fathers, school teachers are all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. So the natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual books. So here it very clearly says, we have been having gurus right from our young age. Our parents were the first gurus, then we have the teachers in the school, then we have the leaders here. So they're all are there. So they all have got a responsibility to, actually they should also be conversant with the moral and spiritual course so that they can lead the citizens properly. They can take care of the children properly, they can guide them properly. So here requires a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. So that is something which everyone should. So that's what he's telling to Arjuna. You become a role model and you perform your Nishkama Karnaga so that you become a role model for the others to follow. And for us in the life is to follow the acharyas. And which kind of acharyas? The acharyas who are well versed in the scriptures and they live the scriptures. They lived as by the scriptures, their thing. And not who are not like the person who is teaching the public to stop smoking, but he himself is smoking. So that's not the kind of acharyas we need. We need a person who has lived the thing. And it's also confirmed. Okay, we'll stop with this. And then we'll take up. Panchakalpatarabhyascha kripa sindeva cha patitam na pavnebo vaishnavo